You just discovered what it takes to become a legend. Grab your Orion. Let's mobilize.
This is episode 4 of the Solo Podcast. I'll be discussing Cyberpunk 2077 and the Phantom Liberty. Just open-ended discussions, just pulling some articles that I've been reading for several months that you could also read yourself. And of course, I'll post links to this in the description below. However, before we get started, I always like to start off with the word of the day.
Vulcanize.
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 Vulcanize is often capitalized verb meaning to break up a region, a group, into smaller and often hostile units. It can mean to divide and compartmentalize. And so, an example of this would be opponents argue that the proposed legislation would only serve to balkanize the country. And then the tweet of the day from 33 Strategies Bot says, "Death is nothing, but to live defeated is to die every day." Quoted from Napoleon Bonaparte. And now I see this article about the Phantom Liberty found on GameSpot.com. Normally I would react to the trailer of the Phantom Liberty DLC trailer. However, since I keep getting copyright claimed every time I do a reaction video, I'm only going to play the audio. I'll make sure I link the link of this article that shows the DLC trailer. So here we go.
How many times you willing to get burned before you stop trusting someone? How many times you gotta take a bullet for these motherfuckers in the name of empty promises? Politicians, military runners, intelligence operatives, all the rotten fish in one fucking barrel, this dog town. Tell me you've got a plan.
Not a plan. A man. If there's anyone we can trust now, it's him.
Solomon Reed, FIA.
So, what do we do now?
Dogtown. Burn it to the ground's what we'll do. It's a simple choice. Them or us. Peace comes at a price. Someone's always got to pay.
Game Awards, what's up? It's Idris Elba here, and I just want to let you know how excited I am to play MUSA agent Solomon Reed in Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. Can't wait for you guys to meet Reed when Phantom Liberty releases in 2023. See you in Night City.
Super cool. So, the article is titled from GameSpot.com. Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty is CDPR's biggest budgeted expansion yet. So to read the article, as you'd expect for DLC that features both Keanu Reeves and Idris Elba. Not much is known about Cyberpunk 2077's upcoming expansion, Phantom Liberty, which is doubling up on its Hollywood star power by having Keanu Reeves back as Johnny Silverhand and Idris Elba playing an FIA agent Solomon Reed. But CD Projekt Red says that this expansion has the biggest budget it has ever allocated to post-launch content. Speaking to Polish outlet Parkiet by The Gamer, CDPR's Mark Bergdahl first called the Spy Thriller DLCs the biggest ever DLC that CDPR has worked on so far. In an update on the Cyberpunk 2077 subreddit, community director Marcin Morton clarified that the statement and said that Phantom Liberty is about the biggest budget when it comes to expansion packs we've released, end quote. And that CD Projekt Red will reveal more information about the scale of the DLC in the future. Phantom Liberty has a high bar to climb as CD Projekt Red's Witcher 3 expansions, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, have long been considered to gold standards in this space. CDPR's reputation took a major beating after Cyberpunk 2077 was released in December 2020 in a less than optimal state, but currently the game is much better and healthier state after receiving significant patches and updates. There were plenty of consequences that CDPR had to deal with following the release of Cyberpunk 2077, including a class action lawsuit from its investors that recently reached a settlement that will see the company pay out $1.85 million to plaintiffs. Phantom Liberty launches in 2023 for PC, PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X and S, and beyond that, a sequel to Cyberpunk 2077 is officially in development. Way cool, way cool. I'm very excited. And so what I will say, when it comes to the strengths and weaknesses of Cyberpunk 2077, I can point out 4 strengths and 4 weaknesses. So, strength number 1, we'll start with the strengths. Strength number 1, Cyberpunk 2077 has such a compelling story of V and Johnny Silverhand. There's this whole relationship that starts off like a parasitic relationship, and then throughout the story, missions that you take on, you come to realize that V needs Johnny, Johnny needs V. They need each other to stay alive, to really enjoy some ounce of life in Night City. And then strength number 2 that I can point out is that the side missions and the gigs help supplement the lore of Night City and add depth to the major characters. You get to know a little bit more about the fixers and even just the surrounding worlds and neighborhoods. Just get a little bit of background story and lore. It feels like you are really in a completely different world that is, while it's fiction, it's almost believable. A lot of believable themes of the human condition and the light side and the dark side of humanity. You get to see it really on a magnifying glass with Cyberpunk 2077. And then strength number 3 I can point out is that the multiple endings that you get to play out give a variety of storytelling to conclude V's arc and even other characters' arc of other characters that V will interact with, or that V has interacted with throughout the entire Cyberpunk 2077. And so it's great to just, you get to take on a different ending and just see, what if. It kind of answers some questions. What if V did this? Or took this path instead? And so it's always great to just see a different perspective. It kind of makes me wonder with Phantom Liberty on how they're going to, which ending they're going to use that's going to be unique and be canon. And then when the sequel gets released, when it does finally get released, it just makes me wonder, what we're going to be set up for in this Cyberpunk 2077 that will lead up to the sequel. And then finally, strength number 4, it has a unique balance of role-playing, action, and substance of lore while still making the gameplay enjoyable. It's not too heavy on the role-play, and it does have quite a bit of action. You're always engaged in some kind of action, whether you're just going to start a random fight with gang goons of Arasaka or Militech, any of the street gangs, Maelstrom, the Valentinos. I love picking fight with fights with the Valentinos just for the hell of it. I often get killed because all the time, because you see like 3 and all of a sudden there's like 12 that come out of nowhere. It's like, oh, I gotta use some silenced weapons if we're gonna mess with the Valentinos here. Now, the weaknesses that I've seen with Cyberpunk that have been addressed, and some that are still open-ended for opportunities for whether it's going to be the expansion or even the sequel. So weakness, or maybe opportunity number 1, is that, there was glitchy gameplay at launch. I originally had started playing it on the Xbox One, and it was glitchy as all hell, always getting kicked from the game, and it just got so annoying where I just didn't play it for a whole year. And then flash forward to a year after launch, I ended up getting an Xbox Series S that had great load time, great graphics. When I ran Cyberpunk 2077, the graphics were really sharp. And I wasn't even using a 4K monitor, just a regular Samsung TV that's probably like it's not 4K, I know that for certain, but it's got a few number of years, but yeah, it still had some, really good graphics just for the Xbox Series S. I couldn't imagine if I were to put it on a 4K monitor with the Series X. Oh, it would have been just so thrilling, so lovely, so oh my freaking lord, graphics type of excitement. The glitchy gameplay, it took a year to really iron it out, and then they kept releasing patches that made the gameplay more enjoyable. So I'm glad that they always update the game, and they are really looking out for the fans that took the time to buy the game, and especially buying a new generation console to enjoy it. So I'm glad that the developer and the publisher, CD Projekt Red, they're really are concerned about the player base, and they want to make sure that we get the best experience as possible. So I love how it improved over the course of time. And then weakness opportunity number 2 would be, of course, I already just mentioned this, the occasional glitches in the game or getting kicked out of the game at random times. I haven't really played Cyberpunk 2077 in almost a month here. I just did like a third corporal character. I still haven't played Street Kid or Nomad, which I may actually start a new character for either Nomad or Street Kid, depending on what my mood is. So I already have 3 corporos. One is a little bit more stealth heavy, one is just assault, like outright just assault, guns a-blazing, and the other one is a little bit more on the assault side with a splash of stealth and cyber hacking. What do you call it? Netrunner, a little bit more of a Netrunner heavy build with some ounce of assault, physical, body, and some stealth. Not a whole lot. And I played on normal, hard, and very hard on those 3 corporal characters. Really love the female V. I love dressing up the female V now that they have transmog. I just love dressing her up. She looks like a freaking hot lady with big fucking guns to shoot the shit out of you. Oh fuck yeah. And of course I got a male V. I swear the male V just seems a bit, I don't know, just weird and dorky. I have a hard time just playing as the male V. I don't know why. Share your comments, see if you feel the same way I do. So, of course, the occasional glitches of the game, getting kicked out of the game, although it hasn't really happened as much. But it does happen, just on occasion. And then, weakness opportunity number 3. There are still more opportunities to explore the mega buildings that could either further expand on the lore of Night City, maybe possibly more gigs or side missions within those mega buildings. I hope that can be something that can be done in Phantom Liberty or even the sequel. Either way, it would make me a happy camper because there's so many mega buildings that, you just don't really ever explore that could have some more exploration and explanation behind it. So that would be great. And then, of course, final weakness opportunity number 4, that I feel that there's a lack of co-op or interaction with other players in the game world, whether it's PvE or PvP. I understand it had limitations at the start of launch, and maybe that was something that was in consideration, but it just couldn't be. There might have been limitations as to the platform they were using to create the game. So I hope that there is a PvE, PvP feature. Really doubt it'll be in Phantom Liberty, but I really hope it's in the sequel. I really hope so. I'll even be happy with just a PvE if we could just co-op with somebody and just do missions for a fixer. Oh, that would be so cool. That would be such a cool role play there. I would love that so much. Or even just a past mission. Maybe go back to the first mission of the heist where V is with Jackie, and whoever you co-op with, they can be Jackie. And you can just play out that entire mission again, but this time in co-op. That would be so cool. I would be happy with that. But I mean, ideally, if we can get like a PvE and PvP, that would be great. And so with that, I do want to just read an article on the lawsuits that happened with CD Projekt Red. Looks like this was an IGN article titled CD Projekt Red settles a lawsuit over Cyberpunk 2077's rough launch for $1.85 million. So investors, they of course sued the developer in 2020. And so the article reads that CD Projekt Red has settled another lawsuit over Cyberpunk 2077's rough launch for $1.85 million. As reported by GameStop, the settlement will see CD Projekt Red pay investors who bought stock between January 16th of 2020 to December 17th of 2020, settlement and administration costs, taxes, attorney fees, and more. Investors filed the class action lawsuit in 2020, claiming that CD Projekt Red hid the state of Cyberpunk 2077 from them after the game launched, with several bugs that, at least on console, rendered the game unplayable for many. Multiple lawsuits were filed against CD Projekt Red following the game's launch, one of which was settled in December 2021 for the same $1.85 million figure. Cyberpunk 2077 remained riddled with bugs for several months and was completely removed from the PlayStation Store as a result, only returning in June of 2021. CD Projekt Red has since updated the game several times, however, leading to somewhat of a resurgence of its player base and even Steam's Labor of Love award earlier in January. And the biggest leaps forward for Cyberpunk 2077 arguably began in February 2022 with launch of the new gen update, or version 1.5 for PC players, which saw several bug fixes and even free DLC added to the game. This thing continued in September when developer CD Projekt Red released the Ed Runners update to go alongside the launch of the anime series, which itself was praised by fans and critics alike. It also announced the Phantom Liberty expansion, which is due to launch this year, and continued to build excitement by revealing that its sequel, codenamed Orion, is also on the way. And then with that, there also is an article regarding the Cyberpunk 2077 sequel, Project Orion, confirmed by CD Projekt Red. And this is an article from October of 2022, last year, from Polygon.com. And so the sequel will take the Cyberpunk franchise further and continue harnessing the potential of this dark future universe. And so, as the article reads, CD Projekt Red just announced a Cyberpunk 2077 sequel, currently codenamed Project Orion. The developer tweeted its long-term development plan Tuesday, sharing that Project Orion will take the Cyberpunk franchise further and continue harnessing the potential of this dark future universe. Adam, Kaczynski, not sure if I pronounced that right, CD Projekt's president and CEO, said in a video published to YouTube that the next 3 games in the developer's pipeline are based in the Witcher franchise, meaning that Cyberpunk 2077's sequel is well off in the future. He called the sequel an ambitious title that will require expanding CD Projekt's more than 1,200-person studio even further. The studio will open a new hub in Boston, which will focus on Project Orion alongside its Vancouver location as CD Projekt Red North America. And then CD Projekt Red did not announce further details or an expected release window. Alongside the news, CD Projekt joint CEO Marcin Iwulski announced that he's stepping down from that role and is looking to join CD Projekt's supervisory board as chairman. It's a non-executive role, Windiski said, which will allow him to remain active and engage as a major shareholder and to support the management board. Cyberpunk 2077 launched in late 2020 in an infamous and disastrous state, so full of bugs and other performance issues that Sony Interactive Entertainment pulled it entirely off of its PlayStation Store. Microsoft too offered refunds, with the expected cost reaching at least $51 million in refunds and lost sales, according to Ars Technica. CD Projekt Red's Help Me Refund program, separate from platform initiatives, cost the developer $2.17 million to $51 million total. Still, it was likely an insignificant loss to CD Projekt Red, which made over $560 million in revenue as of April of 2021. CD Projekt Red has been updating the game continuously over the past 2 years since Cyberpunk 2077's release. With the updates, CD Projekt Red is also working on Cyberpunk 2077's expansion, Phantom Liberty. CD Projekt Red noted that 350 people are working on the story-driven expansion. Phantom Liberty is expected out in 2023, which is this year. And so, with Phantom Liberty, 5 things that just stand out to me is that it makes me wonder, number one, of more depth of the espionage storytelling themes. Is this going to be heavily espionage based? Which I have no objection to. I love espionage, especially for games. And also, point number 2 is that will it be flexible for all types of playstyles, or will it be too dependent on stealth? Which I'm sure there is flexibility, even playing just 3 characters and just having a lot of flexibility with just mixing around the playstyles. There's already flexibility with the playstyle that you can choose, depending on the character that you choose. The life path kind of matters a little, not really. It just really just determines your starting point. But of course, I've only played as Corporal for 3 different characters. I should probably just start playing Nomad and Street Kid just to see what the true difference is. And so I'll find out for myself here. And then point number 3 I want to make about Phantom Liberty is that will the chosen life paths have more of an impact in this expansion? Will it actually matter on what life path you chose that could influence the expansion, or is it just there for the sake of the lore? Which, either way, I don't have any objection on what the direction that they take on the life paths. Maybe have more life paths, possibly. Maybe explore more life paths. I really doubt that they'll do it in Phantom Liberty. The sequel, I hope that they add more life paths. There are more life paths. If you do some research on the original turntable-based game, there are multiple life paths that you can choose from, not just the 3 in this video game. So I hope there is more life paths in the sequel. a super bonus if that could be possible in Phantom Liberty. I really doubt it. It actually makes me want to play the turntable-based game. I've already been reading a little bit about it, and the more I read more about it and its history, the more I actually kind of want to buy it just to see how it is, how it's outlined. So I may explore that later on. And then point number 4 I want to make about Phantom Liberty is that will there be more depth with Militech and Arasaka? When you do some of the side gigs and side quests, side missions, there is a particular gig, I can't remember the name of it exactly, but it's in Valentino territory, and you come to find out that there's going to be heat that will escalate between Militech and Arasaka. And I wish I remembered what the name of that mission was. If you happen to know, feel free to comment down below on the podcast recording of this YouTube here. And then, with that said, I hope that it kind of connects to the side gigs that you're doing in Cyberpunk 2077, and I hope it kind of interacts and it kind of bridges those gigs you were doing to make sense of the whole lore. So I'm excited either way on what direction they take and how they connect with the gigs. And then finally, point number 5 I want to make for Phantom Liberty is, will there be more of a backstory with V? What was their childhood like? Life path dependent, of course. You know, I would like to have a little bit more backstory with V, what their childhood was like, what their ambitions were as a teen, and what their ambitions now as an adult. So I hope that's explored in Phantom Liberty. If not, then that's okay. Maybe they'll do it in the sequel. And so that's all that I have for this solo podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. To end this solo podcast, I always like to end with a quote said by Delamain. Quote, "Truth and good are values proven to cause division." Said directly by Delamain. Well, I hope you enjoyed my solo podcast. As I have said before, these are pre-recorded and they get published within either the same day of the recording or within 24 hours. And of course, the solo podcast is for entertainment and educational and commentary purposes as permitted under fair use. And so until next time, same Handsome King podcast. I'll try to do these on a weekly basis. Same Nerdy Bear voice and personality. Yeah!
The moon.
Well, that doesn't sound too bad, right?
I don't know, V. The moon is mystery.